Hello and welcome to episode number 9 of the Kingdom Texas High School Football Podcast. My name is Casey and I am the founder and host of the Kingdom Texas High School Football Podcast. What's going on, everyone? Week 1 is now in the books. I hope everyone, all players, coaches, and fans had a fun and exciting week number 1. There was a lot of great games throughout Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. There is a lot to talk about, so let's get straight to it. Thursday night, we saw a lot of great games throughout the Houston area. One of the most hyped was the Battle of Giants as the Woodlands faced off against the North Shore Mustangs. North Shore won this matchup 49-21. Another high-profile game was between North Shore's 6A District 21 rival, Humble, Atascocita, and Dickinson. I was watching a little bit of this game on Dave Campbell's Texan Live. The game was close early, but the Atascocita defense really came out and shut down Dickinson. And Atascocita ended up winning 37-0. Another game that involved a team from 6A District 21 is Humble Summer Creek took on Klein Cain, who are favored to win 6A District 15, and Summer Creek was only a player or two away from completing what some people may call an upset. But Klein Cain was able to score late and win 28-24 in what was one of the best games of the weekend. After looking at all three of these games, you have to admit that 6A District 21 will probably be one of the best districts in the Houston area and in all of 6A throughout the year. And we will be able to see what Atascocita is really made of when they face off against the Katy Tigers in week number 2. So another highly talked about game was Cy Rance and Katy Tompkins. I watched some of this game as well. This game was back and forward early, but Katy Tompkins was able to grab the big 31-23 victory. That is a big statement win for Tompkins. A lot of people are talking about Katy and Katy Paetow, and it may seem like people have forgotten about the Katy Tompkins Falcons. Not anymore. Tompkins is for sure here, and they have everyone's attention. Some more noteworthy scores from Thursday are Cy Falls barely defeating Cy Creek 21-20. Spring dismantles Travis 36-14. Houston Spring Branch Memorial wins a close one over Katy Seven Lakes 17-13. Katy Cinco Ranch wins big over College Park 41-13. Montgomery Lake Creek barely wins over a good Angleton team 42-38. In the Battle of the Rangers in Fort Bend County, the Terry Rangers top the Clemens Rangers in a strong 35-20 victory for Terry. Lastly, in one of my favorite stories from Thursday night was the new school in Lamar Consolidated ISD, Richmond Randall's first UIL game against Pasadena Memorial. Randall was able to walk into a hostile environment on the road and surprise everyone with a huge 53-17 win. I am very happy for everyone in that community, from the coaches to the players to the faculty to the student body to the fans and family, for them to get their first UIL varsity victory. All right, moving on to Friday night. I will jump into George Ranch's game against Foster first, and then I'll jump into everything else afterwards. Okay, so for those that aren't aware, Foster beat George Ranch 49-7, and George Ranch's only points came late in the game. And I have no comment on George Ranch. I'm probably like everyone else over there right now, just shocked and a bit disappointed. Now, I do believe that George Ranch can take this game as a learning experience and fix things and get things back on track. But they will need to hurry up because they have a quick turnaround. George Ranch will be playing Katy Taylor on Thursday night in week 2. And then after that, district play starts. So they will need to figure it out quick, because Katy Taylor is always a very tough team to play. George Ranch needs to find an identity and just make sure to execute and take the game one play at a time and then one drive at a time. They have to forget about Foster, because if they are still thinking and are bothered by that game, then they have already lost the season. And I have said it before and I'll say it again, George Ranch has the players and talent and coaches to be a playoff team this year. And I do believe in Coach Cavallo to get things fixed and to get this team back on track. Now for Foster, Foster has everyone's attention now. That was indeed very impressive offensively and defensively. Now Foster will have to continue this momentum into next week, where they face another 6A rival in Travis. Foster will be a team to watch in 5A Division I District 10. Alright, so we're going to move on. So there were a ton of other great noteworthy games on Friday night. Shadow Creek topped rival Manville 32-13. Ridgepoint traveled all the way to Austin and lost to the Austin Westlake Chaparrals 44-14. Clear Falls beat Pearland 20-17. Katy has a strong performance to beat a good Clear Springs team 49-16. Katy Peto's defense carried them to a low-scoring victory for the Panthers over Conroe 14-3. Spring Westfield dominated Cy Park 63-3. Hightower puts on an impressive showing to defeat Pearland Dawson 29-17. Magnolia West picked up a 28-10 victory over Barbers Hill. And lastly, in a shocking fashion, El Campo was defeated by Cuero 43-14. There was also a good handful of games on Saturday. One that caught me by surprise was Fulsheur's huge 74-41 victory against Houston Strake Jesuit. And lastly, and probably the biggest game of Saturday night, Bridgeland was able to hold on to a huge victory over Cy-Fair by a score of 24-21. All right, the last part of the recap part of today's episode, I will present the Kingdom Texas High School football offense, defense, and team of the week for week 1, and then 2 teams to watch, and then 2 teams you might scratch your head on and have some worries. All right, so the offense of the week goes to Spring Westfield. The defense of the week goes to Atascocita. And the team of the week is the Foster Falcons. The 2 teams that you need to watch and keep an eye on is Richmond Randall and Hightower. And lastly, the 2 teams you might have some worries for is Dickinson and George Ranch. Okay, before I jump into my preview for week 2, I will discuss about the game I attended on Friday night. The Palestine Wildcats visit the Nacogdoches Dragons, and the Wildcats came ready to play. After some costly turnovers by the Dragons, the Wildcats took a 21-0 lead midway through the second quarter. The Dragons were able to finally put a drive together offensively and score a much important touchdown to end the half. The halftime score was the Wildcats up 24-7 over the Dragons. Throughout the third and fourth quarter, there was a ton of moments where it looked like the Wildcats had sealed it, but the Dragons kept coming back and kept fighting. With just 3 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, the Dragons tied up the score at 31. However, the Wildcats were able to drive down the field and score the game-winning touchdown with only 15 seconds to go. The Wildcats would hold on for a 37-31 victory over the Dragons. The Nacogdoches Dragons will look to move on to week 2, where they face off against the Lufkin Panthers in Lufkin on Friday night. I will be in attendance for that game. I'm very excited to see these 2 teams face off. All right, now it's time to get into my game predictions for week 2. My record last week was 16-4, or 80%, which was my goal. So I am hoping to keep that rolling on for week number 2 for me. So the first game we will look at will be Katy Taylor and George Ranch. Now my pick is George Ranch. I do feel George Ranch is still a solid team and that they have the ability to put everything together and pick up a big win before district play starts the following week. All right, the next game is the first of the 3 Kingdom Texas High School football games of the week, and it is the Hightower Hurricanes facing off against Spring Westfield. For how much I really like this Hightower team, I just think Spring Westfield may be too much right now. Give me Westfield in this one. Next, I like Pearland to get back on track with a win against Houston Memorial. I like Cinco Ranch to stay hot with a win over Klein Oak. I also like Fort Bend Marshall in a great 5A matchup over Crosby. All right, moving on to the Friday games. I like Shadow Creek to grab a huge victory over a good Clear Springs team. I like Bryan to defeat Huntsville. I think after a heartbreaking loss last week for Summer Creek, that they will make a statement over Clear Falls. I like Angleton over Clear Lake. I like Cy Fair over Cy Park. I like Katie Tompkins to stay hot with a win over Bridgeland. I like Ridgepoint to take down Dickinson. I believe Foster will ride last week's momentum to a big win over Travis. After a tough loss last week to North Shore, I believe the Woodlands will win a great game over Houston Lamar. All right, in our second top game of the week, I got Katy to barely get by Atascocita. I like Klein Kane over College Park. I think Dawson will grab a important victory over Klein Collins. And in the Battle of the Berg, I got Terry over Lamar Consolidated. All right, jumping into our games on Saturday, in our third and final top game of the week, I got Peyto to barely beat Cy Ranch. And lastly, I got North Shore over Spring. All right, that is all for today's episode. Thank you all for listening to episode number 9 of the Kingdom Texas High School Football Podcast. Make sure you go like, share, and make sure to drop a comment below. And do not forget to subscribe. Again, thank you all for listening. This is the Kingdom Texas High School Football Podcast, and I am your host, Casey. Have a great day.